Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. Yes, it's the 6th time you've seen me today. Thank you guys for showing up. Guys, I'm all hopped up on Vertical Momentum coffee, high energy coffee. So if you love coffee, check out Vertical Momentum coffee, the best coffee in the world, but we're also saving veterans' lives. Guys, this is going to be an awesome episode with my brother Grant. We've been connected for a while, and he's doing some amazing things. And I also want to say that if you listen to this till the end, Grant is going to give you 3 things that you can do to start improving, to going from a veteran to a vetpreneur today. So I want to welcome my brother Grant to the show. He's a Marine. He's a veteran. There's no such thing as ex-Marines. He's a Marine. He's a veteran, and now he's a vetpreneur. Grant, my brother, welcome to the show.
What's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, come on, man. I'm doing so good today. I get to hang out with a brother from the council. I'm doing awesome. Life is good. So, by the way, I just want to let you know I love my Marines. I think you guys have the best uniforms, hands down, no questions asked. Once you guys put those uniforms on, panties dropping everywhere. So you guys rock. And I love your mindset. Once a Marine, always a Marine. So I just want to say I love my Marines, and I appreciate you, brother.
Well, appreciate that, man. And yeah, we may have great uniforms, but I pretty much I think everybody can attest to the fact that every other service has better bases, better gear, better everything else. So yeah, but I appreciate that.
All right, so let me know before we even get started. My first question is, what is your definition of resiliency?
Oh man, I mean that my own personal definition, I guess, basically being able to not to steal quotes from Rocky, but really comes down to is like, hey, can you get get kicked in the nuts and fall in the dirt and get yourself face all bashed up and still get up and be like, okay, that may happen again. But I'll keep on getting up. And it's like, okay, as long as you can get up and you will yourself to move forward, then that's a resilient person.
All right. So, if anybody, would see Grant today, you got an amazing life. You got an amazing business. But it all wasn't all unicorns, rainbows, and sprinkles and Skittles. So let's hop back in the Wayback Machine. Okay. Let us know a little bit about where you come from, where did you grow up, and a little bit about your military service.
Oh man, I'll try it. How long is your podcast?
As long as you want, brother. That's how we'll go.
I'll give you the Carstensen for Dummies version. Basically, born in San Diego, moved to Anchorage, Alaska. My mom got transferred up there when I was like 10 or 11. Moved up to Anchorage, Alaska. Quickly thereafter, turned into a really shithead teenager. Quit school at 15. Dropped out of high school in 10th grade. And then went down a really bad path with some bad folks. Joined the Job Corps to kind of, I saw some bad stuff happen to some friends of mine, or quote unquote friends. And I was like, okay, I'm out of here. Went to Job Corps and to learn a trade, just so I wasn't, in that element anymore. Ran into my counselor, who was a former Marine. And he convinced me to go see the recruiter. Went to the recruiter. 10 years later, I left. I joined the Marine Corps. 10 years later, I left and decided I wanted something different. And then joined the Air National Guard as a guardsman on the weekends, and went and got my job as a waiter. And I was pretty surprised by that, because after a tour in Iraq, a combat tour with the Marines in Ramadi, I thought that everybody would be banging down my door to have a combat veteran, decorated sergeant, I thought that all the doors would open for me. And I quickly found out that that definitely wasn't the case. And so I was scraping food off plates and serving rich people at a country club. And I decided that I wanted to be one of the rich people. Long story longer, one of the country club members was this big shot oil guy. And he said, if you go back to school and get straight A's in community college, I'll give you a letter of recommendation to my alma mater, which was the University of Texas, to become a petroleum engineer. And I said, whoa, wow, this is my ticket. And I was like, but I had dropped out when I was 15 years old, and this is after the Marine Corps. So we're talking, 10 years down the road and 12 years down the road, something like that. And so I decided to do it anyway, and applied myself, quit my job, lived off unemployment, and got straight A's, got into UT, became a petroleum engineer. Now I'm working for one of the top oil companies in the country. And that's kind of my professional career as it stands. But then I was getting the itch again for a challenge. So I decided to start a business. And so here I am. We're 2 years into the business that GCS, Guerrilla Collectible Supplies. And that came from just kind of like a passion about comic books from my youth. I was quickly seeing that there's actually some money in it. So I decided to give it a shot. And so now we're really starting to thrive. It was a grind in the beginning, and it took a lot of resilience, but here we are today.
All right. I just want to thank my brother Chad for hopping on, and he's talking about he's never seen so many closed doors than directly after I left the service. But let's hop back and we'll get to that. As you see, I'm writing stuff down because I want to get to that. So what was it like going from beautiful weather, gorgeous women, in San Diego, and then going to freeze your nads off in Alaska? What was that like? That had to be a culture shock.
Well, to say the least. I mean, when I went there, like I said, I was a kid still. So I was like 10 or 11 years old. So wasn't too much into the girl chasing phase just yet, but quickly thereafter. But it was definitely a culture shock. And, my folks were going through it, and they basically decided to uproot us all. And in their minds thought it was a good idea to basically start fresh out and, basically clean slate it out in the middle of nowhere. They did not pan out the way they wanted to, and it's just way different up there. A lot of big crime elements. People are surprised to hear that, but Anchorage is a pretty decent sized city, and there's a lot of darkness up in Anchorage, and a lot of depression up there because of the lack of sun, and that leads to a lot of crime, a lot of alcoholism, a lot of just a bad element up there, to be quite honest. And I fell face first into it. It was not my favorite place. Beautiful to visit. Like I always tell people, beautiful to visit, but I'd never live there ever again.
Okay, so you joined the Marine Corps.
Yep.
Now, did you go to California, or were you
I went to San Diego. Yeah. I went to boot camp in San Diego.
Okay, so it was like coming home in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I actually was able to see my godparents still live there, and they actually were able to come to my graduation. It was pretty cool.
So, what was that like? How was basic? What MOS or military occupational specialty did you choose, and why?
Well, the why part is funny. I basic training, boot camp was as expected, shitty. I did, it's never fun, but it definitely changed me because it really cleaned me up, and the Marine Corps in general cleaned me up. I was a fire direction controlman in an artillery battalion, and why did I choose it? fun fact, I did not choose it. Actually, I went to the recruiter, and basically he told me, he sold me this song and dance about. I told him I wanted it because, of course, I was an idiot, and I was like, I want to be a sniper. I want to be a recon Marine. I want to be a sniper. And he's like, well, I can't make you a sniper, whatever. But you know what? I can make you. Have you ever heard of Forward Observers and Anglico and all these, and like they're like basically they're like snipers that jump out of planes and direct fire from the sea onto positions, and like, you are special ops and I can get you to do that. And I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds awesome. And then I got to, after boot camp, then you go to Marine Combat, MCT, Marine Combat Training. I don't even know if they have that anymore, or how it's structured, but and that's where you actually find out the job that you're going to do. And another fun fact is, like, when you join the military, at least the Marine Corps, if you join the designator, that first two numbers. So I was an 0844, but in the end, you only join the 08 part. And there's 0861, 0844, 08, 0811, all these different and based upon the needs of the Marine Corps, they put you in whatever last two digits that go along with that 08. So instead of being an 0861, which was a Forward Observer, I ended up being an 0844. They're like, Carstensen, 0844, fire direction control. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, the fire direction. I'm a firefighter now, and obviously it's not. I was the dudes who calculate the trajectory to get the round onto target. Once the Forward Observers call the mission into us. So that was.
Did you take to the Marines? Did you enjoy being a Marine?
Oh yeah, I mean, I loved it. I mean, the thing is too is that, like, it's kind of like when you're in it, like, they indoctrinate you like from day one in boot camp, and they teach you the history, they teach you this, and like you leave boot camp thinking that you are, God's gift to the world and nobody can kick your ass. You find out through Hard Knocks that really isn't true. At least I did. And but I loved being a Marine. I still love being a Marine. I will say, though, that the time in the Marine Corps, it's like the old cliche you always hear, is like 90% of the time you hate to be in the Marine Corps, but it's the 10% that makes you re-enlist. And that's how it was for me. I re-enlisted a couple times, and but so yeah, I liked what I did for the most part.
Okay, now I've had a lot of interviews. I actually had the author of the book, Echo and Ramadi. He's been on the show, and you guys, especially when shit first started kicking off over there, I know it was a shit show. And we don't go into all that stuff, but we know that those early deployments, or any deployment, absolutely suck. Like The Rock would say, they absolutely suck. But now you said you did 10 years. Because normally you get to the 10 years and you're like, shit, I'm in for 10. I might as well do my 20. So what happened at that 10-year mark that you decided to not stay in?
Well, at the time, I'm married now, but at the time I was married to somebody else. I basically, they were going to force me to become a recruiter. And that really didn't seem to fit too well. Number one, with what I felt like were my just my skill sets, but two, I just heard just horror story after horror story about marriages that fail, and because of the times that, like, especially in the Marine Corps, because Marine Corps is a hard sell, and so you have to really pound the pavement. And you're always at kids' houses and buttering up moms and dads, and like, you're never home. And so I kind of was like, okay, I don't feel like I'm very good at this. I'm sure I could get good at it, but I don't really think that I'm very good at it. And I really don't want to get divorced. So I don't want to do this. And so I left.
Okay. So before we get started, get on to that, I want to thank our sponsors, the Warrior Council and the Vetpreneur Tribe. I've been in the Vet Tribe since there were 500 members. So I'm an OG, and I mean OG as an old guy, not original gangster. And like I said, I've been there from day one. Been through several ownership changes. I love Marshall, Terrin, Garcia. So guys, if you're a veteran and you want to be a vetpreneur, you need to first become a member of the tribe. There's 16,000 of us that are willing to help you grow your business. And then we also have a subgroup, which is our mastermind, which is the Warrior Council. And for me, once I became a member of the Warrior Council, my business has 10x'd. So guys, if you're a veteran and want to become a vetpreneur, you need to join the Warrior Council. I don't make any money from it, from talking about them, but I'll tell you what, it's the best decision that I've ever made. All right, so look, like you said, I want to go back to your words. When we get out, and especially if it's somebody that's been in forward observing, or somebody's been outside the wire, when we get out, we're thinking, we're Billy badasses. Everybody's going to want to hire us.
Yeah.
But like Sergeant Nick from our groups, Sergeant Nick talks about that once you step off base, the military doesn't give a shit about you. Your phone stops ringing. You don't have the camaraderie anymore. You don't have a mission. And a lot of us end up at the bottom of a bottle or at the end of a barrel. So what was your transitioning like once you stepped off base?
There's different phases of my transition. So it wasn't just something as clear cut as that. So, I mean, I think that how do I say this? My transition was first naive. The first part of the phase one, I'll just call it my naive phase. And I'll say it again. It's like, I really did think that I knew that I wasn't so naive to think that, I have the skills to be like a super famous, not famous, but like super successful executive. I knew that I had the skills, or then I knew that I didn't have them yet, but I was naive to think that because of my background or my self-perceived sacrifices, that people would see those and they'd be like, oh, we're going to give him a chance because of what he did. And I felt like that was going to be the rule by far, and definitely not the exception. And it turned out to be 100% backwards of that.
So now, because sometimes when we're offered a chance to do something, we don't take that chance because we're struggling sometimes with imposter syndrome. And that's something my brother James McNeil wrote a great, amazing book about imposter syndrome. And it's something I dealt with before I became a member of the council. Who was I to think that I could interview people like, General Petraeus, David Meltzer, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad authors. I struggled with that. And I think I would have quit if it wasn't for the council. But you were given an opportunity and you took it because somebody gave you an opportunity. And where a lot of other people would be like, no, go to college. I can't do it. So what was that thought process like, deciding to take that gentleman up on his offer and to actually go to college and get your degrees and stuff?
Well, part of it was an easy choice because I really disliked being like a waiter. Like, I really knew that I was meant for something more than that. But it was daunting for sure. It was definitely daunting. And, and I knew what it entailed. And I was like, man, I'm signing up because I had to make up all the classes I missed in high school and then go to a whole 4.5 years of university. So like, I was in school for the better part of 6.5 years just to get my bachelor's degree. And so I knew that going in, that what it was. So, so it was daunting for sure. but I wasn't necessarily, once I let go of, I guess, and this is something I battle with, and I'm getting better and better as I get older and older and older about what people think about what I'm doing. And I think that helps battle that kind of imposter syndrome, because at the end of the day, and I steal this from Alex Hormozy actually, is that, but it's really true, is that, imposter syndrome, I mean, I guess it's a thing, but really, if you really want to dial it in, it's not so much imposter syndrome. It's who am I going to be embarrassed, or who am I going to be embarrassed if I don't accomplish this? Because if you knew that no one was going to know you failed, then I guess you wouldn't really care about being an imposter, because the only way imposters are found out is, or people find out somebody's an imposter, and if no one's there to look at you, be like, oh man, look at you, Richard, you said you were going to do this, or you said you were a disc DJ, or you said you were doing a podcast, whatever, and you really aren't. Well, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't feel embarrassed. But if no one was doing that, and you're just doing podcasts, you're just doing your thing, there's no imposter there. You just do it. And so once I kind of let go of that, like, oh, who's going to judge me if I fail at this? It made it a lot easier.
And it seems like a lot of people that do judge people that are doing things are not doing anything themselves. And a lot of people are just haters, because you're attempting to do something that they would never have the balls to attempt.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree with that. And I think that's why you shouldn't really pay too much attention to that kind of mentality, because usually the people who are, 9 times out of 10, the people that are throwing shade at you are bringing you down. If you look at where they're at, they're nowhere. They're not on some kind of significantly higher level than you whatsoever. So you kind of have to take perspective into your calculation of how much weight to give somebody's comments.
So because a lot of times I've noticed when, like, my goal was to get 1 million downloads. We hit that. My goals were to be on the same chart and be above people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Ed Milet, Jocko Willink. And that just happened last week. And I'm going, it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be, because now my goals are just going higher and higher. So what was that like to finally graduate? How it was, because a lot of times I talk to my friend John McCaskill. He's a retired Navy SEAL commander, and he wrote the book, one of his books, Embrace the Suck. And he said sometimes when a SEAL would get the trident, it'd be like a little low, because you're like, okay, now what? You know what I mean? So what was that like when you finally got your degree? Was it what you thought it would be?
I mean, in the moment, sure. It was like, man, I mean, it was one of the, key moments of my life for sure, because it was a testament to my resiliency. And so I was able to kind of soak that up for a little bit, but I quickly grew, I wouldn't say bored, because I was challenged. I was hired again, by Chevron, and as a petroleum engineer, and so that in and of itself was also another thing I could be proud of. But I tend to be a person who's like, okay, what's next? And I wouldn't say I get down. I get actually more anxious. Like, okay, I have to do something. I have to, and I didn't feel necessarily 100% fulfilled in my 9 to 5. And so, and I knew that I wanted my next goal. I wanted that. I didn't just want to end up with a comfortable life at the end. I wanted to surpass. I wanted generational, changing results where my niece and and my nephews are able to. I don't have any children of my own, but they're able to pave their way not on their own, but using off the back of what I did, and the lessons that hopefully I instill in them. So and I think that if they would just take a look at what I did, just just being a petroleum engineer coming from where I came from, I mean, that's not a bad story, but I can't help it. I have to go. I'm constantly reaching for more, and that's why I started the business too.
All right, so I'm a Gamecock. I love my Gamecocks. I actually got promoted on the field of Gamecocks. My son goes to Coastal. So what was it like? And I don't know if you've ever done it, but what was it like if you ever did walk on the field where Ricky Williams and Vince Young played their college careers? What's that like? Because that stadium is like 80, 90,000 people. So that has to be an awesome experience.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I mean, it was a great time, and a lot of tradition, a lot of history, and I was part of the veteran leadership team. Basically, all the GI Bill guys and gals who are there, who going through, are part of this veteran network, student veteran network over there, ran by really great guy. And so they put together things like that, and we kind of like teamed up. We found our little niche of veterans, a tiny little cluster of veterans to kind of huddle around while we were going through something that's pretty foreign to us, most of us, because we had all spent time in, whether it be 3 years to 20 years, or 20 years plus. I think one guy was like 25 years or something like that. And we decided to go back to school. And so that was good to have that camaraderie there. And the field, the field's cool. And I love going to the games and stuff. And that's awesome. But what I really, really remember was just, the veteran camaraderie that I was able to find over there.
Okay. So now, because I think I mentioned this earlier when we first got together. I used to own my own collectible store.
Oh, okay.
And I used to have baseball cards, basketball cards. I had everything, and a lot of people said when I first started the business, baseball cards? Are you a kid? And for me, I loved it. There's still no greater, and I've been clean now from drugs and alcohol for 35 years. You give me a box of baseball or football cards, I'm a shredding fool. I love to open up packs and just look for refractors and shit. So I'm still a little kid at heart. So, I'm sure when you said, okay, I want to start a business and I want to go into the collectibles business, I'm sure some people around you crick their neck and be like, huh? So talk to us about that.
Well, so yeah. And so it's been kind of like, there have been iterations, and this has been a kind of a journey, because the original business was kind of like how you were talking about, based upon like a love of comic books, but also based on the margins that we were seeing, for the sales of these comic books. And so I randomly went on Craigslist, and, I just happened to be, going through it and saw this box of comic books, and they showed a picture, and there were some titles and covers that I knew from my childhood. I hadn't looked at a comic book forever. And I was like, man, I know that one. And that's a special book. And I know that book. And this guy was asking, almost nothing for it. And I was, I didn't even really try that hard. And I got it and picked it up and bought it. And I flipped them. And I was like, man, that was cool. I just made, all this money. Fast forward, I was like, I could do this as a side hustle. So that's what I started doing. But then I started putting out, my company started putting out its own comic books with our own art. We contract artists, get permission from Marvel or DC or Dark Horse or whomever to use somebody else's art for a fee. And then we'd sell these exclusive books, for $30-$40 a piece. And if they caught on, you could even sell them for $100 a piece, and it might cost you $2 or $3 to produce them. So I thought that was great. I thought it was amazing. And look at these margins, and how can you lose? Well, I found out. I found out how you could lose, and it only takes a couple times of going through the whole process of putting a book together, and you think it's great, and then nobody buys it, and now you've just got boxes and boxes and boxes of the same comic book that nobody wants, that you just spent tens of thousands of dollars for the project, and it only takes a couple L's in a row for us. I mean, and we're not millionaires over here, and so it only takes a couple times in a row where you're not getting any money in to quickly find out, oh wow, this is not as easy as it looks, and I don't know what I'm doing. And at that point, I decided, I was talking to somebody, and I was reminded about the gold rush, and they were like, it wasn't the people who, most people went broke panning for gold. The majority of them went broke panning for gold, except for the really successful ones. Who really made the money were the people selling the jeans, the picks, and the shovels.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, so what are my picks and shovels of the comic book game? Is there a market for that or whatever? And then, and then I started thinking about it. I was like, holy shit, they're printing, they are printing over 2 million, 3 million comic books at the time per month. And almost every single one of them needs to have a board. And it's not sexy. But like they need to have a backing board. They need to have a plastic piece of plastic to slip it into. They're going to need tape to put. Just like you'd think, it's like, oh my god, this is the most boring business in the world. But it's, every single collector of comic books, those are what they use. Those are the supplies that they need. And so I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. So I did.
So okay, so and I remember I would go to. And I'd have people, I'd send top loaders. I ordered a shit ton of top loaders, cardboard boxes. So I was the guy that would buy everything.
Right.
So I was the person buying everything. So you have an idea, or you pivot from the idea that you had, but now you have to line up suppliers.
Yeah.
You have to make business contacts.
Yep.
So did you have contacts from already doing the comics?
Yeah.
Is that how you built it?
Yeah, kind of. So like I knew people who would flip comic books. I definitely knew the big names and stuff. But it was, it's slow going, man. Like there's already a couple established companies out there. Like I certainly wasn't by any means the first one to do this. And I certainly wasn't getting the best pricing because the batches of the runs that I were doing weren't very big. Therefore, my unit cost was really high for myself. So the profit margins were not good at all. Sometimes even zero. So it was a slog in the beginning. It was a grind, man. And there was definitely some key things that I've learned and have I've utilized to help me get to the point where I'm at right now. But we're just entering into our really big growth phase for the company.
But as we were talking in our the Warrior Council, sometimes you have to go out. You have to go to Comic-Cons. You have to go out there, and unfortunately, in business today, you have to go out there, shake hands, and kiss some babies, and get to know people. And I think a lot of people are afraid to go out and to do that. But you weren't. You were like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And you actually got some contacts from doing a couple of those things. So talk about that, stepping out in faith and actually doing the thing.
Well, yeah, man. When it comes down to it, it's just get off your ass, because I that was a good tip, not the get off your ass part, because I really felt that I was working hard. But that was a good tip that that I got inside the council. Was just like what you said. It's like you got to go to the conventions. You need to pound the pavement. Go to where your buyers will be, And then, things, will materialize if you keep on doing it, and you have to be ready for the no's. And Lord knows I got them. But, you put your time and energy out there, and I'll walk the convention hall for 4 to 6 hours going up and down the aisles. And after an entire day of doing that, maybe I only have one person that decides to be a customer of mine out of the 300 people that I talk to, or 400 people that I talk to. Maybe I have 2 people that become customers, and like, wow. And you really just have to believe in the power of of compounding, effort, where it's like, okay, I may only get 2 now, but if I do it the next time, I got 4, and then I'll do the next time I'll 6. But those last 4 are going to talk about, and this comes into how to be successful too. Is like, you treat the first 4 good, they're going to talk. So not only are the 2 new people you got, the 4 people are talking and being mouthpieces for you. And now these other people are going to hit you up. And it's kind of like snowballed into this where, a lot of it's word of mouth. But I'm still not afraid, even to this day, to get out there and hit the conventions. And I do. It's just, I think that there's more legitimacy to what we're doing now versus in the beginning, where I was going around and I didn't even have a T-shirt with a logo on it. Like, hell, I didn't have a business card. And you just have to be like, okay, again, with the imposter syndrome thing, it's like, okay, whatever. Maybe they do think that I'm full of shit. But there will be some person who respects the grind. Maybe they can picture themselves 10 years prior, or even what they're doing right now. Maybe they picture themselves like, man, he's grinding just like me. I would want somebody to give me a shot, so I'm going to give them a shot. And so, but you'll never know if you don't get out there, right?
Yep. So let's talk about, because I was with GNC for over 30 years.
Okay.
And I would actually, go to each booth, even though I had my own booth, and I would talk to everybody, and I'd get their phone calls, and I'd get their cards. Back then, it was cards.
Yep.
And when we got back that Monday or whatever, I call people, hey, hey, Cellucor, I met your guy there, man. What a great setup you guys have. I just wanted to say I love your products, and I love to collaborate in the future. And I did that with every single card I picked up. I called and I talked to somebody.
Yeah.
And I built relationships, which now, even I've been retired for 12 years, I'm still friends with a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I believe in building relationships. And like you said, you may have just met 4 people or talked to 4 people, but you're building relationships with those 4 people. And then they're going to be like, hey, if they have a question or somebody's like, you know what, I need to switch up my supplier. Something ain't right. They might just be like, hey, this dude Grant, awesome dude. Here's his information. Give him a call. And then, like you said, the next year it might be 8 people might do that. And if you just do it consistently, right, you're bound to build a network, right?
No, you're 100% right. And you hit the nail right on the head as far as what kind of my approach to this is, and here's the thing. And some business owners might think that, hell, some people in the Warrior Council might think that this is idiotic, but every one of my customers has my cell phone number, my personal cell phone number. And at any point in time, now, to be fair, and if we get to the point where I hope we get to eventually, there just won't be enough minutes in the day to answer all the phone calls from the people. If we do, in fact, get to a point where I want us to go, but especially right now, building that foundation, it's all about the relationships. It's all about, man, I live in a world where people are just mining my data, mining my, and they don't care about me. They care about my, just like what, nothing's real in this world anymore. And unfortunately, so many of the relationships, quote unquote relationships, aren't real anymore. It's some kind of quasi social media infused kind of relationship where it's not. And so I really like to let people know, hey, you're a person. You're not a number on a spreadsheet. You're not, you're talking to Grant. You're not talking to some random bot on the GCS Facebook Messenger. And I think that it really, although maybe Some would say I'd taken the slow way around, but I really feel like it resonates with people and those that are trying to build a strong foundation in which to build their businesses on. What I think would do well to heed that advice is that it's like, okay, build the strong foundation first, and then you can build upon it. And I think that then, and if you train your people along the way to be just like you, even better. Not everybody's always going to be able to get access to you, especially in the future as you grow. But if you train your leaders like to treat people as if how you would have treated them in the beginning, you can still get probably 80-20 of that same kind of. No one's going to be as good. I mean, maybe not nobody, but hardly anybody's going to put the amount of effort and care and tact and everything into every conversation as you are. But you can train somebody to get 80% of the way there, and that's going to go, and then you get exponential results.
But like we're talking about, and we've been connected for a while now, and we have hundreds of thousands of followers from the group and from Vertical Momentum. But I tell everybody, if you get a message, it's from me. I don't have anybody sending out messages, and I'll just be like, "Hey, Grant, just wanted to say hi. Just want to see how you're doing. I'm not selling you anything, bro. I just wanted to make sure that I'm checking on you and making sure you're all right. And
I do the same thing.
How you're doing, and it makes a big difference."
You're 100% correct. And I've had so many people, so many of my clients told me, man, and been frank with me too. It's like, I know you guys aren't the cheapest people. I know you guys, your prices aren't the cheap. They're decent, but you're not the cheapest. But I really like the way that you talk to me. Like you treat me like a person. And if I have an emergency, you treat it like an emergency, and you don't treat it like as if like, okay, sorry, I'll get to you when I get to you. And, I really feel like that human connection, that human kind of understanding is something that's so lacking in this world. And maybe that's an opportunity for people who are able to open their eyes and say, hey, man, it doesn't take much to shine anymore. It really doesn't. You don't get that personal, like I wasn't around back in the day, but I've, in the 50s and the 60s where it's always just handshakes and personal relationships. And, that's what a lot of these business back then were just built on. And I don't think you see too much of that anymore. And I think that when people see it and they recognize it, they're like, oh, I want more of that in my life. I want more positivity, more of those good feelings. And you know what? Maybe sure, I'll pay 10% extra or whatever and especially if you have a good cause behind it on too, as a bonus, shoot. And so like we donate to the Wounded Warrior Project, and we don't charge people, we don't upcharge it, it's built into it, and people know that it's like, hey, there you go. And and so we're like, okay, not only do we give you personal attention and the respect that you deserve, but also we're giving back as well.
And now, but something I've learned from the Warrior Council is that I just launched my coaching program, my podcast coaching program, the first of the year. And I'm probably the most expensive guy doing what I'm doing. But there's a couple of reasons, because some, when I was talking to Russell Brunson, he said, you know what? People that pay attention. And then he also said, there's no reason to race to the bottom for pricing. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to be the second lowest price guy, but there is a reason for being the most expensive guy, because that means you're providing immense amount of value. Like a lot of people, when they sell courses, they just give you the course and that's it. When I sell my course, I actually give you 8 weeks of me to actually teach you how to start a powerful, purposeful podcast that's profitable. So there's a difference between, like you said, being cheap and adding quality and then adding value. Because I'm sure when there's somebody that buys from you, if I know you and I know how you are, if somebody just, even if it's the smallest purchase, I know you're throwing extra shit in there. because I know that you want to build that relationship to what it is, to hopefully bigger, but you also want to provide more value than you're being paid for, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, I think what you were talking about adding value, I think it's really important, and it helps you justify, maybe a higher cost, but it's got to be real though. And I think a lot of people, and I think even a lot of veterans, a lot of entrepreneurs, but a lot of veterans too, though, is that they lean too much into the how much their time is worth, their value, when they really don't give that much value in it, because their value comes in the form of you know um, you know helping a veteran-owned business, helping whatever, and that's all great. And but that's not valuable to your end customer. You need to be able to go, like you were saying, it's like that's value. Taking 8 weeks of your time, that's valuable, right? And it's valuable because you've proven that you can do it. And I think that people fall into that trap as well, where it's like, okay, can you show that you have gone through the process and were successful at doing something? Because that's not valuable. You're just a dude who is talking into a microphone, who's saying that they can make you profitable and saying you can do these things, but without actual results, you're just a dude, and that's not value. And I think that's really important for people to, and I fell into that trap in the beginning. I was like, oh man, you people are going to want it again. I don't know why I didn't learn it the first time, but I learned it the second time. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a veteran-owned business, and they're going to want to give me all their money they're going to go to me for my supplies and all that stuff like that. And and man, they're going to feel so good about themselves. They're going to find the value in that. And I wasn't providing real value to them. I was just kind of like hoping that they felt good about themselves by doing something. And it wasn't until I started providing that value. My situation's a little different. There's only so many ways you can make a piece of cardboard and a piece of plastic valuable, but I mean, there are a couple ways, but the real value came in the personal service, customer service, speed in which you could do is attention to detail, or like impromptu ad hoc, like, oh man, I am out of this supply. I've got an order going out. Can you do something, please? And they knew that if they went to any other supplier, they'd be like, oh, sorry, it's Saturday, or whatever. And I've driven 3 hours to go drive bags and boards to a convention in Dallas from Houston, because they were like, hey, I don't know what we did wrong, but we didn't plan accordingly, and we are completely out, and we're going to be in a bad way if we don't have these, and we can't drive to Houston and go get them. I was like, on my way. Now, did I charge them for that? Of course I did, but it's that level of service that kind of sets us apart, and that's where the value comes.
And but I had Steve Sims on the show. Everybody knows Steve D. Sims, author of the book Blue Fishing, and he taught me that when everybody else is going left, go right. He's like, because what I do is the minute I hang up with you, I'm going to say, hey, bro, send me your mailing address. I want to send you a little thank you for coming on the show. And I do that all the time. And some people will actually post the thank you cards on their internet. They're like, I haven't got a thank you card in 20 years that's handwritten. And they put it on
surprised.
And they put it on the refrigerator because they're like, that shows that somebody actually took the moment to actually write it and not use one of those fake handwriting things. But I'll actually write a note to Grant saying thank you so much. And that, even though it costs $1, it means something because somebody took something that's so finite, which is time, to say to Grant, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And that makes a big difference.
Well, you think about it, like, when you're deployed, right? Especially when I first got to Ramadi, I was in February of 2004, so it was right when that shit was going off. And I can't tell you how good it made me feel when mail call would come. And hell, I mean, this was 2004. So, I mean, email was a thing, but we didn't have email. Like, we didn't have anything. We had shit. And so but we did, but we had an address, and you would get written letters in for the first shit. I hadn't received a actual written letter, man, since boot camp, and so, I can't tell you how, and part of that is because that time it wasn't some random like Facebook message or whatever. It's like someone took 15 to 20 minutes of their time to write this thing out, and the words felt good, but it's like that feeling inside where it's like, man, someone really cared enough about me to take the time out of their busy day to write this thing. So I agree.
Yeah, so it makes a big difference. Like, we go to a certain restaurant in Myrtle Beach, and my waiter, we've been going there for 14 years. Now, we're friends on Facebook and all that, but when I family, he says, "Hey, Rich, Michelle, Linda, Sean, Liam, are you guys getting your usual drinks?" Brings them my drinks.
How awesome does that feel?
And we tip like 40%.
Of course.
Because we know, every year we go, he knows my daughter since she's 6 months old. And they don't even make chocolate shakes, but he makes a chocolate shake for my daughter. And,
that's awesome.
But for me, I'll always remember, we know we're going there at least twice, and he's going to get a 40% tip every time because he goes above and beyond and always over delivers on what he promises. You know what I mean?
And it's circular, right? So it's like you give them, you take care of him, and then what do you get in return the next time you come in? It's like you have a connection with him now, and he treats you great again, which just makes you have an amazing day, or it makes your family have an amazing day. And how much is that worth? Probably more than that 40% tip, to be quite honest. Yeah. But he's happy, and it just goes round and round. And so that's how it works for us too, where it doesn't cost me anything to be nice, to be patient, to be, to have really good customer service. And eventually people will, like, just like you said, in a random conversation, someone might be like, "Oh, my bag ripped," or it's taking me forever to get blah, blah, blah. It's like, "Oh, you know what? I haven't told you about my guy. I got my guy. I've been working with him. He's great. He takes care of me instantaneously. Yeah, here's his number." And it's like, and it's that kind of like, and then they tell me about it, and they said, "Oh yeah, like my biggest client that I just got, the biggest client, the biggest comic book exclusive producer in the country that I just landed a week and a half ago, that was off a suggestion from a guy from the guy that I drove to Dallas for, to drop off 1,500, 2,000 bags and boards that I, big, humongous pain in the ass. But because of that effort, I got this, I was brought up in a conversation, and now I am in a position to start really thriving.
Okay, so now, before we even end up our conversation, tell us about the Warrior Council, because I love the Warrior Council. I don't make any money from the Warrior Council, so that's not my thing. But I believe even back in the early 1900s, when you read Think and Grow Rich, and from who he learned from, the Carnegies, they were talking about masterminds since the 1890s, 1900s. And for me, I believe that the power is in the council, because there's so many people there that are there just that lift each other up and help each other. So talk to us a little bit about the Warrior Council and how it's helped for you, how it's helped you.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I make it when I can. I tend to be really busy during the day, but I've definitely made more than a few of them. And I get a lot of the value from our side chats and everything that we have. That's the one that I can really pay attention to a lot. But I do get a lot out of when I can make the calls. I get a lot out of it. And here's the thing about my masterminds and warrior council, whatever, is that first and foremost, it has to have good leadership, which it does. It has good leadership because we can, as veterans, we tend to spiral out sometimes and go down these tangents. And sometimes we need to be corralled back in. And at least I can speak for myself. I know I can go on a tangent forever, and I need to be roped back in. But second off, too, is that just about masterminds in general. As long as everybody is, focused. I've seen bad masterminds. That's the reason I'm saying this, is that I've seen bad masterminds where it's just a bunch of conglomeration of guys and gals in there who are just kind of, fucking off, for lack of a better term. And they're not about shit. They're just about talking. And what I like about the warrior councils, they give, if you ask for it, if you go for it, number one, you have to pay to get in there, which I think is, I think it's key, to be quite, because you have skin in the game. No one's asking for $1 million either, but it gives you skin in the game. It's like, okay, I have a reason that I'm here. But number two, when you get in there, I've gotten some really actionable things from the group, or just help. One of the group members said, "Hey, yeah, oh, you're going to Orlando for a convention? One of the biggest conventions? Yeah, take." He happens to be here in Houston. He's like, take my trailer, because we're gonna have to rent his U-Haul trailer to bring all of our supplies and stuff. He's like, no, take the trailer. Marshall was saying that he's like, yeah, pound the pavement at the conventions, and there's a lot of other things as far as how to set pricing, and and it depends on what niche you're focusing on in your business. Yours is more of a service base, while mine is more of a retail base. But there's people in the warrior council from all walks and different types of businesses in there. So you'd be hard pressed to not get some good advice from people who have been in your steps before, and it can kind of point out the potholes that are coming up. And then as a group can weigh in if you have a question. And I've asked.
And I also like this. This came from Willow Street.
There you go.
This came from Patrick Hunt. The new book I just got in today from Robert Garcia, the new veteran war entrepreneur. So we all invest in each other, not just emotionally, but sometimes financially. We invest in each other. Like, why are we going to buy somebody else's T-shirts when we can take care of the tribe members and invest in their business? Or I could be like, one of my friends just Tommy Fierro has it was called the Wrestling Connection, and now they're starting to sell comic books and sports cars. And I made sure I tagged you in it whenever I see anybody I know that needs anything comic books related. I'm going to tag you in it so you can create. So I think that's what a mastermind should be. It should be about. I think Robert Garcia said it, that something about a rising ship lifts all tides.
Yeah, rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, the last two things is, what is your opinion on Marshall Terrin?
Straight shooter, always straight shooter. He's. I can always expect him to give me the real, and that is a quality, and not in a shitty way. He can be. He's tactful. And he gives you good advice, strong advice, in which it looks, like maybe, sorry, I heard something. Maybe from the outside in, it might look, because we're all veterans, might seem a little harsh sometimes, but he'll shoot you straight and give you actionable things to help improve yourself. So I got nothing but good things to say about Marshall, to be honest.
All right. And Mr. Robert, the warrior strategist Garcia, what are your thoughts?
He seems like he's doing well for himself. I've talked to him a couple times. I haven't really. So this is going to be part of the growth phase. You talk about people helping you, and why wouldn't you choose from the council? We haven't up until recently, because we hadn't really. You're talking about on that S curve, and we were down here on the S curve still, and right now we're just starting to break into our hockey stick. And so I think that's what it's going to help us really keep ascending, is going to be that next piece that that we're missing, is that kind of like that PR kind of piece, and which we didn't really have a lot of capital to invest in that, to be quite honest. But now that we will have, by mid 24, end of 24, we'll be relatively flush if our projections are correct. That's going to be the next. He's going to be the next person we have a phone call with, because going back to Hermosi and stuff, marketing and promotion, and you can only go so far. You need with just yourself. You need to have many people talking about you, and if nobody knows you exist, then you're not going to help or be able to sell to too many people. I don't know who said, one of them says, like, you could have the cure of fucking cancer, but you're not going to sell one vial of that shit if no one knows it exists. And
I'm a big Hormozi. I'm a big Alex and Layla Hormozi guy. Yeah. I actually interviewed a guy that actually worked with them when they were first starting out until they were making $34 million a month.
Yeah.
And then he actually left, but he actually helped build that brand. And he was saying that everything is about building real value. Because if you can charge somebody for $10,000 worth of value, then you're going to get that money. But you got to build the value first, and then you can charge up to the value. So I love that. So what is next for you? What is next for your business? And how can we support your business and your mission?
Right now, we're just we continue to go after large-scale comic book producers who need supplies. We are venturing into, now that because of our recent success, we are able to now buy in much, much, much bigger quantities, which has driven our prices down, which makes us candidates to successfully profitably sell on Amazon. And so we're going to be fleshing out the Amazon arm of the company, and then we're going to be bolstering our convention presence starting at the end of this month, and we're going to be hitting the big conventions and promoting ourselves and selling out there as well. So that's
so is there a website that we can go to?
Yeah, so you can go to gorilla-supplies.com. That's good, or you can go to GorillaCollectibles.com, and that's GUERILLA collectibles.com.
I love it. Grant, I just want to say, brother, I'm so grateful that we finally got a chance to put this together. We've been talking about it for a while and things going crazy. So I just wanted to say, I appreciate everything you do, and I appreciate your friendship. And thank you for being so open and honest about business, because everybody thinks the life of an entrepreneur is like this, when it's actually like this, and this. So I just want to say thank you for your friendship, most of all, but thank you for actually hanging out with us today and taking the time out of your day to hang out with us.
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
All right, guys. So make sure you check out his website, guys. If you're a comic book guy like I am, if you're a sports card guy like I am, check it out. The website is fun. It's easy to play with. It's very, even for a low-tech redneck like me, I can go through it and enjoy it. So, guys, I just want to say thank you to Warrior Council. Thank you, Marshall Terrin. Thank you, Robert Garcia. Thank you, Vetpreneur Tribe. I love you guys. And, guys, remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is but up. Make sure you check out our website at verticalmomentumpodcast.com. We got T-shirts, hats, swag, the new courses there. And this episode will be on that channel, so you can check it out. Brother, I just want to say I appreciate you and I love you, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
All right, Grant, be good. Have a great week. And guys, remember, I'm going to take a nap and I'll probably just pass right out. So I love you guys and I'll see you next week.
All right, take care.